sports. Now, back to Cofield and Company, live from the Battleborn Broadcast Center.
Notre Dame, in a lot of ways, Paulie, Newt Rockney, the Kipper, South Bend, Touchdown Jesus, the Gold Helmets, the Subway alumni, their own NBC contract on Saturday home games. Notre Dame, in a lot of ways, is college football. Out of the four, I don't think there's any way you can say that if Notre Dame wins, it's not the biggest story and it's the best thing to happen to the sport.
So that is Mad Dog Russo, who's on with Stephen A. I love that he stole my bit of changing names. There's nothing more annoying than being called, like, Stevie. I don't mind it, actually. But Paul Feinbaum, you can see him. He's like, Paulie. That right there from Russo on Notre Dame, and you heard it in the verbiage, that is 100% a New York take.
Right.
I think. And that's why the Vast Sound crew grabbed it. Or is he right that Notre Dame winning it would be the best thing for college football?
I think I could hear that argument. The whole premise leading up to his statement of that, like, I don't necessarily agree with that. Notre Dame is college football. I don't think that's the case. I think you talk to most under 30s and they're like, oh yeah, Notre Dame's like this program that used to be really good. But I don't think they think of them as the blue bloods of college football anymore. But with the college football playoff, the wrestling between the conferences, the Big Ten and SEC trying to push towards guaranteed, 2/3 of the 12 spots, 8 of the 12, or 3/4, 8 of the 12 spots on their own without any other further qualification. I do think that there's an argument that Notre Dame winning it all is better than any of the alternatives.
For those reasons.
For those reasons.
I don't think that's what he was saying.
It's not what he's saying.
To your point, I think it would be. Now,
you heard it because one, that his references are so old.
Yeah.
Super old.
So it's not a younger audience. And two, he said Subway alums.
Yeah.
He's talking about New York.
Yeah.
And also to the point that he was making, not the point that you were making, which I think is true. We want to just knock off the big conferences. To the point that he was making, like, I think Notre Dame's already accomplished that by being here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to hit the relevancy and the their fans getting back involved and all that, like, they don't have to win for that. For our purposes that you're making argument for, they do. And I know I think it just hit literally as you were walking in studio with us, and I don't even know if Steve saw it yet, but this leaked proposal now that basically the Power Four are like, you know what, we're in charge now. No more of the NCAA. We decide who's in the tournaments. We decide who's in the FCP. We're taking over that now. And it's obviously not passed yet. It has to go through all the processes, but the document did just get leaked like about 40 minutes ago. And I mean, this is the writing's on the wall. We need to knock them off. Like, we got to take away their power in that way.
Yeah. It's interesting that would be coming from the Power Four. Just because, like, I think when you look at college football, I think it's like really the Power Three and the Big 12.
Yeah, I can see that too.
The Big 12 was garbage. Mountain West was much better than them this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Losing it.
Just struggling. Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think this is, to me, even seeing this, and again, it just came out, so nobody's really had a chance to delve into it and figure it out. But like, just seeing it, I would think it's the ACC and the Big 12 desperately clinging to hope that they could still be a part of the power structure, knowing that the Big Ten and the SEC are probably going to try to be pushing them out at some point. And hey, if we can be a part of this group, hey guys, we're all friends, right? Don't push us out. Let's push the other people out. I think it's their way, and I'd be stunned if it wasn't them that kind of came up with this.
By the way, if you noticed during interviews, I've been asking almost everyone, does the Boise loss mean that no group of four should ever be? I'm sorry. Yeah, group of five. No group of five should ever be in again. Is that what we're headed towards? Because I believe that there is going to be an effort here to shut out all of the group of five. And what does it go back to? My assertion that Nevada, Idaho, and New Mexico at a minimum all need to get together, because this is coming, and those are the three states that have schools that, frankly, arbitrarily, because of conference alignment, are just out on this mix.
Yeah, there's a lot of moves that I think needed to be made proactively to try to figure things out before. and that weren't, and we've kind of let it go down too far. And now I think there's going to be a lot of scrambling to try to figure out how to stay relevant, how to stay in the mix, and all those other things. And it doesn't help when those results come, even though they shouldn't matter. And by the way, Boise wasn't blown out. Like Indiana was blown out. They weren't really coming.
It doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah, of course.
If they didn't win, especially because of the bye, people were going to be lined up. And I do believe it is. I don't know what the legal term is. We'll get Justin Watkins back here in a couple minutes, but it is unfair. It is arbitrary, and it's outrageous.
Yeah, I would agree with it, but there's a lot of things that shouldn't matter that do matter, and then people use them as to support their argument when they have no relevance whatsoever to anything. You see this all the time, but it's just I want to find things to back up what I said. So I'm going to try to use this to back up my argument or what I think or what I believe, and it's silly, but it's what happens.
And by the way, I kind of shortchanged. I'd have to go through the rest of the states that have a group of 5 or groups of 5. That group of 5 schools that could be eliminated. I'm sure it's more than just 3 states.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, most Western states.
And this spells well. The thing is, can a California rep step up on behalf of Fresno and San Diego State and San Jose State and Davis?
The better argument.
No, Davis is FCS.
The better argument is can Oregon. It's one half of their actual schools. Washington
and Oregon.
Yeah. Right. Well,
that's the only way this. I don't see any other way it's going to get stopped. This is where it's headed. It is in a very exclusionary. The whatever is dubbed the Power 4. Adding schools or not, they're going to rule college football, and the big money is not going to be shared down to the rest of these schools.
Well, if they break apart from the NCAA, then I don't know that there's a heck of a lot to do about it, right? There's nothing that forces the universities to collectively group together and be a part of the NCAA. The universities created the NCAA. They can choose to leave it. It'll be interesting, though, because when the House settlement came out, you saw the power conferences come out and say, yep, we agree with this. We're going to move on. And the Pac-12 was included in that statement. It was a joint statement. It was back to the Power 5. And you'll recall that the Pac-12, as one of the charter members of the NCAA, has that designation and has veto power. Yes, they stripped it away, but on a temporary basis because it no longer qualified as a conference, technically, with the 2 members. Still at 7, though. So they got to get – I know they want to get their TV rights deal in place before they add the 8th or 9th or 10th, but this may put a little pressure on them to get that last school named so that they have to be recognized as a conference and figure out where they're placed.
Yeah. Look, it's a wild world of college athletics right now, and a lot more is going to change before we have any kind of solutions to most of these things, and a lot of just machinations and movement to try to set yourself up to be part of the power structure, part of the relevance, and all those things. And I think to Justin's point is right. Like the Pac-12 needs to figure out a way to be recognized again, which means they have to add an 8th school, but they also don't want to add just a school to add for the sake of adding one. But they might have to at some point, so they can have the veto power to stop this.
So let me give the audience an update on back to the Raiders and the day in the Raiders. This morning reported that Tom Brady called Belichick, asked him, hey, do you have an interest in the Raiders head coaching job? Other reports out there that other organizations have reached out to Belichick. On the Raiders front, yesterday we talked a lot about the possibility of Liam Cohen, the OC from the Buccaneers. Pete Carroll wants to get back into coaching. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, Raiders have made a request to speak to them. It can only be on not social. What is it called?
Zoom,
or in our case, StreamYard. Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah,
that's an interesting one. But he's so old. He's 65.
Didn't make
Carroll's 73.
First one that didn't make my list of 12.
Was he on the odds board?
He was.
So was that the one you were freaking out about?
No.
Okay. What was the name you were freaking out about? Because you didn't include him in the top 12, and then some offshores had him on the list.
Yeah, it was Kellen Moore.
Okay.
The offshores made him a favorite.
Oh, really?
That's why I was like, okay, I didn't have him on my 12. He's a favorite? It's not good.
Back to college here with another legal story. We never really talked about the national letter of intent as opposed to the NIL. And changes are coming in college football, and also NIL going to rev share. So what's the deal here?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're heading towards a place in which all this gets collectively bargained. Like the players are going to have representation at the table when all these new rules get set into place, because anytime they don't like any of the rules that are going to go into place, what are they going to do? They're going to file a lawsuit. And the NCAA does not have a great track record of winning these lawsuits. You know, they just determine how they're going to treat these, by the court's understanding, employees without allowing them to organize, without allowing them to have any voice in it, and with forcing certain terms and conditions on their employment through national letters of intent, restricting NIL, restricting transfer, you know, their ability to move to and from schools, to profit off their own name, image, likeness. And the courts are not going to look favorably upon that until and unless the players have some sort of say and have a seat at the table and collectively bargain all these rules. If we get to that place where they collectively bargain it and there's a set of rules, then it's very unlikely a court would ever touch that. They would say, this is what you've collectively bargained for. We see that all the time. You know, when the NFL gets sued outside of the rules of the game and in court about stuff, they usually do pretty good there, because the CBA was collectively bargained, and because if one side's adhering to the rules of the CBA and the other side wants something different than what the CBA says, the court usually doesn't give it to them.
This hour is brought to you by Battleborn Injury Lawyers every single day up in Reno, 4 to 5. We are on the air there. And, of course, ESPN Las Vegas. Offices in northern Nevada, downtown Vegas, Summerlin, and Henderson. The call from anywhere in the state of Nevada. The number is 766-1400. You got to dial 775 in the north. Battleborn Injury Lawyers.
It's football season, and the best place to catch the games is at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas, featuring the best pool in history, Stadium Swim. 3 levels, 6 pools, and a 143-foot diagonal screen. Book today at circalasvegas.com.
No more compromises. It's time to experience the luxury, safety,